Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from LA on Veterans Day. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Good morning, guys.
Good morning and happy Veterans Day to everyone out there and to all the men and women that have served and all the men and women that's continuing to serve and protect this country. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
We do thank all who have served and are serving this country. We still have our problems in this great country, but thankfully we do have you, and we appreciate that.
I actually get to see my cousin today. She's stationed in Hawaii. She's in the Navy, and I haven't seen her in months, so it's a really special day for me as well, and I'm so proud of what she does. And just to everyone, thank you so much for everything you do for our country, keeping us safe. And I believe only appropriate to start by talking about the Cowboys today. Some are already speculating whether Trevor Lawrence could end up in Dallas. During a radio interview, Jerry Jones was asked what he thought about Dallas taking a quarterback if they were to land the #1 overall pick in the 2021 draft. Jerry said the whole idea was crazy and, quote, it's not the thing to be talking about at all. Dak is our quarterback. So, Shannon, if hypothetically the Cowboys wound up with the #1 pick, do you really believe, Jerry, that he would not use it on a quarterback?
Well, Jerry, I mean, you say it would be crazy. We think it's crazy that you haven't already signed Dak, and so you probably wouldn't be in this position, and people wouldn't be constantly asking you, Jerry, if you got the #1 pick or you got a top 2 pick, because everybody believes, Skip, it's going to be those 2 quarterbacks, Lawrence and Justin Fields out of Ohio State, going 1-2 in the draft. We wouldn't have to ask these questions, but because you don't have Dak signed, because Dak is coming off a broken ankle, people are going to continue to ask these questions until Dak is under contract for an extended period of time. Now, Skip, for me, the way I look at it, the only way Jerry would not take, if he had, let's just say for the sake of argument, he had Patrick Mahomes, he had a Deshaun Watson, he had an Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have one of those guys.
But would anybody even ask this question?
Right, exactly.
It would be absurd to ask
Exactly.
The question. Yes.
And because basically since his freshman year, Trevor Lawrence has been universally regarded. When he comes out, he's going to be the #1 pick. Skip, they said that.
Maybe since his junior year in high school.
Right.
Didn't he win back-to-back Georgia State championships?
He did.
He was the National High School Player of the Year.
Right, and they have the same. Georgia is also where Justin Fields went to high school last, Skip, so he beat him in that situation.
And by the way, Trevor Lawrence is 6 feet 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
And he can run. I think he'd probably time like 4.6 maybe.
Ask Ohio State, can he run on that long touchdown run that he got? So, Skip, for me, I believe they have greater needs. I believe Dak, because you're asking a guy, so because Jerry Jones believes that he's assimilated enough talent to go get to and contend for a Super Bowl. So you're going to ask a rookie to come in and says, okay, now lead us to the promised land, do something that Dak could not do. If it was me and I had a top 1, top 2 pick, I'm not so sure, Skip, I wouldn't take the big tackle out of Oregon. Sword. Now, a lot of people are saying he might be the best prospect since Orlando Pace.
Would you take him #1 overall with those? There are actually 4 quarterbacks sitting there that could go boom, 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 boom right behind you.
But you know what I might be willing to do? I might be willing to trade. I got it. I can give me 3 #1s for this one. So if I get the #1 pick, Skip, I'm going to trade because the offensive line is starting to get old, Skip.
Yep.
They're not the same. You see the injuries are starting to come with greater regularity to Tyron Smith. Zach Martin is getting on up there in age, although he's still playing at an elite level. Lyle Collins had hip surgery. But, Skip, I would trade. For me personally, I would trade the pick and accumulate more picks because I believe that's where they need to go, especially on the defensive side of the football. You look like you're set at wide receiver, Skip. Would you trade those picks and maybe take a running back? Is there any running back rated that high that you would take a running back? I don't think so, Skip, but I would load up on the defensive side of the football because that seems to be where I'm lacking. So I'm going to take Jerry at his word and says, no, he wouldn't take a quarterback. But until Dak gets under contract, Skip, for an extended period of time, I don't really trust Jerry.
Okay. Let's first take a hard look at what Jerry said. He's on his own radio gig that he does every week. And the interviewer basically softballs him because he says, wouldn't it be crazy if, so it's a leading question.
Right.
Well, yes, it would be crazy for me to even think about this. Dak is our quarterback.
Right.
what else is Jerry going to say at this point in time?
Right.
Dak is their quarterback.
Right.
And frankly, deep down, bottom of my heart, I hope that's correct.
Right.
The problem, as you suggest, is that what did your grandfather or maybe your grandmother say about I can see better than I hear?
I see better than I hear.
Correct?
Yes.
What do your eyes tell you? Your eyes tell you that we went months and months. We went a whole year with Jerry saying no to Dak Prescott.
Right.
Jerry Jones, whose reputation has been historically to overpay his stars. Every one of them. I can go all the way back to Emmitt Smith if you want to, even though they had a clash for a while. He finally gave in and gave him his money.
Yep.
This was the first time Jerry Jones drew a line in the sand and said no to Dak Prescott. That's too rich for even my blood, said Jerry Jones.
Correct.
If you and your new agent, Todd France, want north of $40 million a year, if you want up in the Deshaun, it hadn't happened yet, but in the Deshaun range, or even, dare I say, the Patrick Mahomes range, neither had happened quite yet.
Right.
But we could all see what was coming.
Right.
And Todd France, the new agent, is saying, we went up there in the Mahomes. We went up closer to 45-ish a year.
Right.
And we went only 4 years, and you're saying every contract you do is for 5 years so he can keep you under lock and key, right?
Right.
Jerry said no. And Dak and his agent said, okay, we say no. And it got pretty ugly.
Right.
According to Yahoo Sports, it got do not invite them ugly, where they quit speaking to each other.
Right, because there's reported, Skip, from the time that they said no, from September until, April, there was no conversation.
No conversation. So Jerry is basically telling you, I like my quarterback. I don't love my quarterback. I don't love him at any cost. To me, I kept telling you that I'm trying to be objective about a quarterback I have loved and defended since his rookie year in 2016.
Right.
But I can go top 10-ish. I can go 10, maybe 9th, somewhere in there.
Right.
But I can't argue that he's better than Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I can't do it.
Right.
Not yet,
Right.
because he's 1 and 2 in the postseason.
Correct.
Okay, so why did Jerry dig in? What do the numbers tell us about Dak Prescott? Well, in his last 17 starts as a Dallas Cowboy, he's 6-11 as a starter. Is that all his fault? Well, obviously not.
Right.
They've had big defensive issues. They've had running the ball issues. But in the end, if you're the quarterback of that team, that record is going to stick right on your forehead like an L, because it says 6-11.
Correct.
And after he got off to that rip-roaring hot start last year, not Shannon Sharp called garbage teams, right? New York Giants, Washington, Miami. Dak struggled, and he went 5-8, and Pro Football Focus ranked him over the last 13 games only the 15th best quarterback, so he was average. And Shannon Sharp, the Hall of Famer sitting across from me in those games, 7 times gave Dak Prescott an F for his performance. And I will remind the Cowboy faithful of what they were. At New Orleans, Green Bay at home when they fell behind 31-3.
Yep.
At Jets, a woeful loss, 24-22. At New England, 13-9, only 9. Buffalo at home on Thanksgiving, a complete annihilation and humiliation. At Chicago, I don't even want to think about how bad it was on that Thursday night. And then all the marbles on the line at Philadelphia, it was 17 to only 9 points. That was Dak's year last year. And that's why Jerry, to me, just said, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Right.
I don't trust it going forward. Then what do we see early this year? Just to make sure everybody's on board with what happened. Well, I thought Dak played very well in the opener. I thought they got a horrendous bad call on the push-off from Michael Gallup on Jalen Ramsey late, but he played well enough, I thought, to win that game. And then here we went. They came home. They're behind 29-10 to the Atlanta Falcons at halftime.
39-20.
Okay.
At one point.
39-20. Okay. It was a miraculous comeback, and they stole the game from the Falcons. But still, that's not a pretty sight.
Right.
At Seattle, it was 30-15 in the third quarter. Home against the Cleveland Browns, it was 41-14 early in the fourth quarter. Dak threw a bunch of empty calorie kind of yards.
Right.
He piled up historically great comeback yards, but they were comebacks without too many conclusions because he didn't put the exclamation point on that one.
Right.
And then in the game that he got hurt, the Giants, they trailed the New York Giants 17-3 at home in the second quarter. Okay, so that was all with Dak at the helm.
Right.
And Jerry's just saying, I'm sorry, no. So now let's do the reality of this. You realize right here, right now, my Cowboys are sitting with the 3rd overall pick. If the season ended today, they got number 3. Well, that's already getting a little dicey on the quarterback because, as you pointed out, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, but then Trey Lance is gaining momentum, and as is Zach Wilson at BYU, 21 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Right. He can run, so can Trey Lance. And they're rising up the board.
Right.
And I'm not saying that would even come into thinking, but you're going to have people just saying, oh, my God, look at this and look at this. Because
normally, Skip, if you want to get one of those guys, you would have to move heaven and earth to move up to get one.
Okay.
But they're going to drop, possibly one of those 3 or 4 guys is going to drop right in your lap.
Yep. Okay. So this pains me to talk about, but as much as I still believe my team has some far-fetched possible, they could maybe steal this division somehow with like 5 wins. There's also a really good chance my team's not going to win another game. Trevon Diggs has now gone 4 to 6 weeks with a broken foot.
Right.
And just as he was emerging as a maybe future Pro Bowl player, out. And you brought up yesterday, now what are you going to do at cornerback? I don't know. Where's Awuzie? I don't know what happened. He tore his hamstring, and he's still not back.
Well, I think he's back now.
Okay, but I'm saying they've had enough trouble. If you lose Trevon Diggs from the back 4, from the secondary, I don't know. It could get ugly again.
Yes.
Okay, so the only game that I see that I circle and say, surely we can win that game is against the Washington football team at home on Thanksgiving. What happened at Washington football team? It got ugly fast.
Right.
And that was with Andy Dalton starting at quarterback. Right. Obviously, he got hurt in the 3rd quarter, got concussed and knocked out of that game. What if we lose every game? Is it possible that the Jets, with Joe Flacco at quarterback, manage to stumble home and win a couple of games? It's possible. So now we're back to Trevor Lawrence. Okay? So Jerry, as we know, sometimes he leans more to marketing than to winning.
Right.
Would he be intrigued by the 6'6" quarterback with the long sort of blondish brown hair? Would he be intrigued by that as America's team's quarterback? Maybe, although Dak has become very popular.
He has.
Dak into a sympathetic figure by hardballing him in the contract negotiation.
And then he got hurt. Man, Skip, that locker room.
Sympathetic figure. I got it. And in the biggest picture, Dak is so, obviously he's a sympathetic figure because of the loss of his brother, the suicide of his brother, but he's very likable. I'm not saying he's charismatic, but he's just so likable.
Right.
He's inoffensive, and he cuts across all lines. I think all communities seem to really like him because he's a good guy.
Yes.
Solid. He's not controversial. He says all the right things. So he's got a lot of star power that way, and he's got a whole lot of national TV commercials. So I'm not sure that Trevor Lawrence would be more marketable than Dak Prescott has become up from the 4th round, right?
What? You see that kid?
Well, tell me about it.
He'd be all in Dallas, Texas.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Was Troy Aikman marketable? Was Tony Romo marketable? Can you imagine that kid, 6'6", with those locks in Dallas? Forget Dallas, Texas, any part of Texas. That sells. Jerry knows it sells.
He does seem to be a little more of a liberal thinker than most.
Yes.
And he has been very much pro Black Lives Matter, right? And has been out front on that cause. But still, just on image alone, yes. Just on pure image, yes.
Yes.
Jerry's going to be like, ooh, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Cha-ching,
cha-ching, cha-ching, 6 feet, 6 inches tall. Okay, so then it would boil down to long-term, who's going to win more playoff games?
Right.
Would it be Trevor Lawrence or Dak Prescott? Boy, that's a hard call right now. I don't, I've told you all year, I'm not sold completely on Trevor Lawrence, which brings us to Justin Fields. I'm starting to get sold on him because all he does is complete every pass he throws. Albeit with a loaded football team, great protection.
And if you think about it, Skip, I believe this kid is going to come out with a higher grade than Joe Burrow, who was regarded as University's #1 pick. He's going to come out with a higher grade than Justin Herbert. And we see how well he's playing. Tua got injured, but he's going to have a higher grade than probably higher than Jared Goff and Carson Wentz when they came out.
Okay, I do agree. So now back to your point. Dak Prescott, unfortunately, suffered a career-threatening injury. It's so bad that whatever mobility Dak has had, which is reasonable, he has reasonable mobility.
Right.
Will it be inhibited? Will it be handicapped going forward?
Right.
Maybe, don't know, but hope he could bounce back full force.
Probably the second year he'll be closer to 100
Yes.
for what he was as opposed to this upcoming 2021.
That will affect Jerry and Stephen Jones thinking short term, like, do we know what we have? Well, some of it's just going to be guesswork.
Right.
The doctor's going to say he's way ahead of schedule because they're all ahead of schedule, right? So then we look at defensively. Obviously, Dallas needs lots of help on defense.
Right.
I look at Todd McShay on ESPN.com, a friend of mine, does a great job. So I'm looking at his latest mock draft, his draft ranking. And it's not a mock draft, it's just his ranking. But he's got Micah Parsons out of Penn State as the highest defender, and he's an edge rusher, linebacker, and he wears number 11. And all I know is last year, every time I turned on my TV, I saw number 11.
Right.
He popped for me.
Yes.
But is he Lawrence Taylor? Probably not.
You can't compare to that.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. But is he even Chase Young?
Right.
I doubt it.
Let me ask you a question. Could he be Myles Garrett?
It's different because he's smaller and faster.
Right.
He's going to be more Von Miller-esque.
Right.
Could he be Von Miller? That would be the one.
Maybe because he's wearing that number, maybe he's compared to one I call works here, LeVar Arrington. LeVar Arrington wore number 11. It was a linebacker that was all
over the field. Okay, I got it. Patrick Surtain at Alabama, he's the second. Obviously, his father was very good. Made 3 Pro Bowls for the Dolphins, if you remember that.
Played against his dad, yep.
He's at number 9. So could you trade back if you're Dallas and maybe get a Micah and or a Patrick Surtain just to revitalize the defense as a corner and an edge rusher?
Right.
Maybe, if you finessed it right, because I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have high value.
Right.
If you happen to fall into the first overall pick.
Yes.
But the problem here is that the risk is enormous longer term, and Jerry's always talking about his mortality. I don't have that many years left, but the point is, are you willing, on what your track record is so far with Dak, again, 6-11 in his last 17 starts, would you be willing to sit tight, Dak's my quarterback, and pass on Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, and for that matter, Trey Lance and Zach Wilson? Would you sit still, trade completely out of the top 4 maybe, and if you had 1 and go back to 5 or whatever, and whatever you could pick up, would you do that and risk the near futures of all 4 of those quarterbacks coming back to haunt you? Would you do that?
Well, I think the thing is, Skip, because Dak is young, if Dak, let's say, just say for the sake of argument, Dak within year 9, year 10, I think you'd probably you'd be more hesitant to do it because you're like, okay, year 9 to 10, let's just say he has 5 years, as opposed to 10, 12 years. Because that was the argument with Peyton, Skip, remember? Okay, I could have Peyton for 3, 4, 5 more years, or I could have Andrew Luck for 15 years. Well, and plus, Peyton was coming off that injury, and the Colts doctor says, nah, let's not do this. Some of the other doctors says, okay, there's a chance, 10, although small, that he can come back and play well. But when they looked at it, Jim Irsay says, hold on, maybe 5 years tops, maybe, or 15 years. Well, Skip, it was a no-brainer. But when you look at this, Skip, over the last 22 games, the Jets and the Cowboys have the exact same record. Now, who has more talent? The Cowboys.
No, that's a very good point. That's touche. You got me.
I mean, Skip, I get it. Quarterback makes a big difference. But from the way this team, as Jerry Jones and everybody keeps telling us this is the most talented football team, there's no way over the last 22 games they should have the exact same record as the Jets. Something is not computing, Skip. Something's not adding up.
Which is why he did not give Dak his money. So my gut feeling, bottom line is, if Jerry didn't commit to him, think of what you could do. Let's just do the hypothetical. If you did take Trevor Lawrence, do you know how much you'd have to pay him if we go by what Joe Burrow got? Joe Burrow got 4 years, $36 million. That's it. Period. End of story. So that's like $9 million a year. That's it. It's mostly guaranteed.
It's guaranteed, yeah.
Okay.
But you prorated that over 4 years. You pick up his option. That's 5 years. So basically, that's like $9 million a year, as opposed to having to pay Dak if you franchise him $38 million.
$38 million. Well, if I know Jerry, he's into dollars and cents.
Yeah.
He would say, wait, I can have long blondish hair and I can have I don't think, because the cap's going to plummet, I don't think that he'll get much more than Joe Burrow got to sign.
No.
Okay, so I could have Trevor Lawrence for 4 years for what it's going to cost me to have Dak Prescott for 1 year.
Right.
I believe he would jump at Trevor Lawrence. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it's hard to turn that down, Skip, because they say this guy is a generational quarterback.
Yep.
And when those guys, I mean, you're not trading up to get Andrew Luck. Nobody was trading up to get John Elway. You weren't trading up to get Peyton Manning or Troy Aikman. That wasn't going to happen. So if this guy is what everybody believes in, for most indication, he's real deal. Nobody is going to. If you get an opportunity to get him, Skip, nobody's going to trade you for it. Nobody is going to be in that spot.
Right.
Is going to trade back and says, okay, give me 3 first-rounders and I'll think about it. Nobody's doing that, Skip. So if you land on that #1 spot, you're probably going to take that kid.
I would, unfortunately, agree.
Now, if you get an opportunity to get that Sewell kid, maybe you do it like the Ravens did Jonathan Ogden. They put him at left guard for a year and then bumped him out to tackle.
Yep.
So you're going to have to see, because, Skip, Tyron Smith, year after year, these injuries are starting to come with greater regularity, and they're starting to keep him out for longer and longer periods of time.
I got it. And the last quick point is the Parsons kid, number 11 at Penn State, and the Sewell kid at Oregon, they both just opted out this year, so it's hard to even draw a bead on them because you don't even know how they played this year.
Right.
So you're betting on what they did.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
The
time
last
off.
thing we
see
saw,
how it pays
Skip,
off.
they look good. Okay, that's good enough for me.
You can't miss out on the possibility of what Trevor Lawrence may become.
Right.
There's a lot of potential there.
No mercy.
The Phoenix Suns ended their season on a hot streak, going 8-0 in the Orlando bubble. Now they may be getting more help to kickstart the next season. According to reports, the Suns have been in trade talks to acquire Chris Paul from the Thunder to pair him with Devin Booker in Phoenix. So, Shannon, how big of a threat would this make Phoenix in the West to your Lakers?
It'll make them a threat to make the playoffs. I mean, something they haven't done in a very long time, but they're not.
10 years.
Yeah, so, that's the threat that I see, Skip. Will this make them better than the Lakers? No. Will it make them better than the Nuggets? No. The Clippers? No. The Warriors are going to come back. Stephen Clay is coming back. And, you know that organization, Skip, they're always looking to add something that we don't think is going to happen, and they land this big-time free agent. So don't count them out. So it looks like the Rockets, Skip, Russ and James are questioning the direction that they're going in. And so it looks like Russ might be on the move. James Harden might be on the move. But, Skip, I don't see them as a threat. Could they get a top 4 seed? I don't even see them as a top 4 seed, because it's not like who is that? The Mavericks. The Mavericks are going to get any worse. If Porzingis come back healthy, they're going to build on what they got. The Blazers, Utah, Memphis, or New Orleans. So, Skip, I see them as a playoff team as opposed to being on the outside looking in and having this mad scramble and they finish a half game out because of the play-in situation. But I don't see them as a threat to any of the big 3, big 4 seeds in the Western Conference. The West is loaded, and it's going to get even more loaded if they get Chris Paul. But I don't see them as a threat.
Would LeBron see it as a threat if his... I think he's his best friend, but it's close.
Right.
I don't know that for a fact. But if Chris Paul, a very close friend of LeBron's, signed off on going to Phoenix instead of coming to the Lakers, because there was a report, a couple of weeks back, that he was in the mix to go to L.A.
Obviously, who put that in the mix?
Okay, he lives, obviously, in Los Angeles.
Well, we wasn't in the kitchen. Me and Rob and Jeannie Buff were in the kitchen cooking that up, so I don't know who cooked that story.
Okay. Are you down on that notion?
Yeah, I don't think, no. It's too much. $85 million over 2 years no, we got other issues. I'd rather spread that. Because what we've seen, Skip, even though we didn't land Kawhi, Rob took that money, spread it out, and the depth is what won us a championship.
Rondo is what won you a championship, and he's going to the other LA
You
team.
hoping that's...
I'm not hoping. I just think it's a done deal. We'll see pretty quickly because the window is about to open.
Might lose KCP. KCP said, I ain't cutting no deals.
Okay, fine. So, Chris Paul. What do I think of Chris Paul in the biggest picture? I think he's been a little overrated his whole career. He's not transcendent. And you know why he's not transcendent? Because he's just too short.
He's 6 foot tall.
He's 6 feet tall, so he does the best he can with what he has to work with. Is he a great shooter? No. He's a good shooter. He's a great clutch shooter.
Yes.
He makes a lot of big baskets.
Yes.
But in general, in the flow of the game, is he what you would call a Devin Booker? Well, he's obviously not Devin Booker.
No.
Okay. So what he did best was what he did last year with Oklahoma City. I did not see that coming.
I didn't either.
Chris Paul early on was a solo act force of nature for the New Orleans team back when Monty Williams, now the Phoenix coach, coached him in New Orleans.
Right.
That team scared the holy hell out of my Spurs in the playoffs.
Right.
Just because of the little 6-foot-tall guy who was just a pit bull. He was hard to deal with just because of his competitive fire. But as he began to age and he's been injured, hamstrings right and left, he's now 35 years of age. But last year, he goes to Oklahoma City, and I thought he might just kind of mail it in like he got stuck there after he got shipped there. He did not mail it in. He led that group to 44-28, which tied for the fourth best record in the West with Houston and the Utah Jazz. That's pretty great. And that team was Shea Gilgeous and Steven Adams and Dort and Gallinari and who's coming off the bench, Noel, Basley, and Schroeder coming off the bench. Not bad, but still, Chris Paul was the driving force of that team, right?
But you said something. You said the 5-month break helped LeBron James more than anybody. Actually, it helped Chris Paul, given his history of how he wears down every single year. I think the 5-month layoff helped him more than anybody because given his history, Skip, what we've seen, normally come playoff time, it's a hamstring, it's a knee, it was something. So he got a 5-month break and was able to finish up the season strong.
Okay. What am I seeing in Phoenix? It's what I saw catch fire in the bubble over those last 8 games. That was scary good.
Yeah.
They were playing so hard and so hot for Monty Williams. And Devin Booker is an all-star already, and he's only going to get much better. To me, if he had Chris Paul, that would take him up a level. Because one thing about Chris, he's not selfish. He averaged 18, 5 rebounds, 7 assists last year, but he distributes. He is what you would call a pure point guard, right?
Yeah.
So would he help Devin Booker, who, by the way, had averaged 7 assists himself? Yes. They would be a lethal backcourt combo.
But Skip, it's not like Rubio was trash. Rubio was fourth in the NBA
assists. I got it, but you know what? Chris Paul's just a notch above.
He's a step better than Rubio.
Okay, because you'd have to probably trade Rubio and a guy you love, Oubre.
Yes.
Okay, you'd have to trade both of them, both for salary and for players, back to Oklahoma City.
And some draft picks.
Okay.
OKC gonna have like 40 first-round draft picks in the 20s.
And watch him. He'll nail them all. That's just what he does. But listen, DeAndre Ayton is going to be an all-star.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 all-stars and a perennial all-star in Chris Paul, I think they're going to be better than you're giving them credit for. I'm not saying they're better than the Lakers, but
top 3 seed?
Top 4. Yes, top 4. They're going to cause problems in the West, which is already hard enough as it is. But when I look down the rest of the roster, that Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson and Dario Saric, if they keep him, which I think they would, and they acquired Cameron Payne, and I've always loved Javon Carter back to West Virginia because he defends and just shoots the lights out.
But Skip, at that salary, you're going to have to give up a lot of players, not just Oubre and Rubio. You got to think about Chris Paul's salary. It's 41 this year. It's 44.5 next year.
Okay, but sometimes this boggles my mind. The thought is they have $20 million in cap room that if they can trade the requisite salaries back, and I know it's a lot of money.
Isn't Oubre free though? Oubre's a free agent, isn't he?
I don't know. Not sure.
Okay.
But from what I read this morning, and again, this is way over my head, that Oubre and Rubio would work.
Yes.
In exchange, but where you could even preserve your cap room, where you could actually go get another free agent or 2. To help improve or restock your depth.
Rubio, buy Oubre.
Well,
because if it makes sense in the cap, why wouldn't you do it?
Okay, well, you just would. As much as you, I love Oubre.
I do too.
You know, I love how hard he plays.
I thought he played unbelievable before he got hurt.
Okay, I love Monty Williams. He's obviously he was a very young coach, and now he's a very mature coach. This team would be a factor with Chris Paul because he's just the kind of player. This would be the best fit for him. Where look what happened. He goes to the Clippers, and he and Blake just clash. And Chris is hard to deal with. Once once he gets his pride rubbed raw, you better be careful because it's going to be big trouble.
Yep.
And he's not going to be quiet about it. So that didn't work. And then he goes to Houston, and slowly but surely, he and James went, boom, they just butted heads.
I think the thing is, Skip, is that he's going to places where guys are already established, and they say it's their team, and Chris says, nah, I came in, it's my team.
Okay, I got it.
I hope it's not a situation where he goes to Phoenix. Book is already established.
I don't think it would be.
I hope not, Skip.
Okay, well, you could be right, but I don't think it would be because he's 35 years of age. What does Chris Paul need the most? He needs a ring.
I'll take the title.
Okay? Would it be, I'll be very curious to see because the way the NBA works, these superstars, they sign off on these deals.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not that they have veto, but they just sign off. You
don't want to upset them.
No, if Paul George wants out, Sam Presti says, "Oh, okay, I'll just do it. Whatever you want, I'll figure it out."
Right.
And I'll stockpile more draft picks, like you said. Okay. So if he signs off for going to Phoenix, then he's going to think in the next couple of years they got a shot to win a ring, right?
Right.
If he really wants the ultimate shot, the sure shot to win a ring, then he would hope the Lakers would figure out a way to fit him under their cap.
Well, see, the thing was, if Jeannie Buss had Bombers money, $74 billion, well, the cap is no problem, no con. So if I'm $100 million,
luxury tax,
right? If I'm $100 million in luxury tax, what's $100 million if I'm worth $74 billion? But unfortunately, the Buss family is not like that. So the Clippers were more likely to go into luxury tax hell as opposed to the Lakers. The Lakers must be smart about this, and we will. We got something up our sleeve. We got something brewing. You just sit over there.
Well, how do you know? Are you saying you're plugged in?
PayPal.
Yeah.
We got something. We got something.
You and Jeannie been
cooking. We've been in the kitchen cooking.
Yep. You've been in communication.
I've been in kitchen. There you go. See,
just trying to figure this out.
All I'm saying is this. KCP, we're probably going to lose KCP because he's played himself into a big payday, and rightfully so. I got a ring. I've made some money. I was a first-round draft pick, but now I get an opportunity to cash in because I show I can be a 3-and-D, and I can knock down big shots. He knocked down some big shots in the playoffs.
I agree.
So he's in line for a big payday, and rightfully so. There's a chance that, Kuzma wants this big payday, but we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to do that. But what we will be willing to do is give you a big payday and trade you and get something back, big something back every time.
Interesting. So you're saying LeBron would quietly vote no to helping his friend CP3 win one ring?
I want my friend to win a ring, but I don't know if I want my friend to win a ring more than me.
Well, the problem there is the starting point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers, I think, is your guy.
Yeah, it is.
LeBron James.
Yeah,
so if Chris Paul wants to be the starting point guard, I don't know exactly how that works.
And that's what helps the Clippers with Rondo. The Clippers can offer him something we can't. That's a starting job. The money's going to be the same.
Probably.
But the title will be different. It's kind of like two jobs. Okay, the job didn't go have the same pay, but one has a better title.
I don't even think it's a title. One has more opportunities.
Starting point guard.
That's what I'm saying.
Backup point guard.
Yeah.
It's the same job, Skip, but one has a better ring to it.
Speaking of rings, I'm hearing rings in the future of the Clippers.
No, you don't hear that. That ain't nothing.
I don't know.
That ain't nothing but a dial tone.
That ain't nothing but a dial tone. Way to go before we're talking about rings.
You still got that landline. That's what he got, Jenny. He got a landline.
Working his way up from the basement still. Okay, guys. Pro Football Focus updated their quarterback ranks through 9 weeks of the season with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson taking the top 2 spots. Despite coming off his worst game of the season, though, Tom Brady still held on to 3rd thanks to his big-time throws and turnover-worthy play percentage being in the top 3 of all QBs. Right below Brady at 4 is Patrick Mahomes, due to what PFF has called an inconsistent season for the reigning Super Bowl MVP. So, Shannon, how much do you disagree with Brady being ranked ahead of Mahomes?
1,000,000%. This is crazy. And, Skip, this is how you lose credibility, really. When you say things like this, you say he's had an okay season. Now, you look at Patrick Mahomes. He has 25 touchdowns, which is more than Tom Brady. He has 1 interception. Tom Brady has 7. So he has more yards, more touchdowns, a higher completion percentage, more yards per attempt, a way better QBR. And you say, well, because he has more, Tom Brady has fewer turnover-worthy plays. So I just want to know, what costs you games? Is it turnovers or turnover-worthy plays? I'm confused by this, Skip. You won't find one Tampa fan that says, you know what, as much as I love Tom Brady, and I'm glad he's here, that he's played better than Patrick Mahomes. I can make a case, nobody, Skip. He's the only guy that hasn't had a bad game. His bad game was 342 touchdowns and an interception and 32 points. That was his bad game. You look at the bad game that Tom Brady had Sunday night. You look at the one he had opening night against the same Saints. You look at what he did against Chicago. Aaron Rodgers had a terrible game, Skip, against Tampa. Even Russ, 2 of the last 3 games, you can like, man, this man has yet to have a bad game. And they said he's the 4th best quarterback currently. Skip, I'm confused. Nobody up to this point. He's on pace to throw for what, 40, 45, 46 touchdowns. Almost 5,000 yards with one interception. And Tom Brady rated, come on, Skip, even you, and I know you love Tom, but Skip, you can't forgive this. This is unforgivable. And you're losing credibility when you say stuff like this. How do I get A's? The first semester, and then somebody that got B's got an F on one paper somehow has a high GPA in the first half than I do. That makes no sense. You'd have been upset, right, Skip?
My turn. Speaking of losing credibility, I hate to say this or point this out to our viewers, but there is some fraudulence operating here in your idolatry of the guy you call Mahomeboy, who actually isn't from your home state. He's actually from Texas, and you're from Georgia.
And he plays at the rival team.
He's a Chief, and you were Bronco. Okay. I believe you're overrating the year that Mahomes has had versus the year that Tom Brady has had. And that is the point of Pro Football Focus. They're doing the whole body of work.
Okay.
Start to finish.
Okay.
So how do they encapsulate the 2 seasons by each of these quarterbacks? Brady, as Pro Football Focus says, is coming off his worst game of the season. We all know that. But the body of work has been superb up to that point. He ranks 3rd in both big-time throwing percentage and turnover-worthy play percentage. They're just doing the numbers, and the numbers add up to 90.9. That's his rating for the whole year. What are they, 9 games in?
Yes.
For 9 games, that's 90.9. Mahomes has had a very good year, but not better percentage-wise than Brady, because their rating is 89.7. So it's 90.9 to 89.7. What's their capsule explaining their ranking of Patrick Mahomes?
Okay.
It has been an inconsistent season for Mahomes, who also has one rough game to his name this year.
What is it?
That was a grade of 44.9 by Pro Football Focus against the Patriots in Week 4. Mahomes is playing well, ranking 6th in positively graded throws, but don't be fooled, says Pro Football Focus, by the 25 touchdowns and 1 interception, as he has a league-high 6 screen passes for touchdowns and 9 turnover-worthy plays. Do not be fooled by 25 to 1, 6 touchdowns on screen passes, and wait a second, 9 times he's thrown the ball up for grabs.
So hold on, but at the end of the day, Skip, okay, one guy has fewer turnover-worthy plays, but more turnovers. So how do you have more turnovers but fewer turnover-worthy plays?
It's Favre-esque. You're throwing football so hard that defenders are shocked by the velocity and they can't hang on. Mahomes' passes are hitting defenders in the hands and they can't hang on.
Skip,
that's what's happening.
But my guy is pushing the ball down the field. That's why BA is so up, the head coach, Bruce Arians, is so upset at your guy, because he won't push the ball down the field.
He's been pushing it a lot.
If he's been pushing it down the field a lot, why is his yards per attempt so much lower than Patrick Mahomes?
Well, he's had a whole bunch of deep pass interference calls on Mike Evans and little Scotty Miller.
Skip, you used to love QBR. Mahomes is 2nd, Brady is 16th.
Okay. How about QBR this past Sunday at Kansas City? Another Mahomes game by Mahomes.
Yeah.
He got outplayed by Teddy Bridgewater. 89 QBR to 83 for Mahomeboy.
Skip.
Wow.
Really? But Skip, all I'm saying is that, Skip, you tell me you're an eye test guy. You tell me, say, Shannon, disregard all the stats. Shannon, disregard all this. Tell me, what do your eyes, have your eyes told you that Tom Brady has had a better first half of the season than Patrick Mahomes?
My eye test tells me fraudulence. A lot of bells, a lot of whistles, a lot of smoke, a lot of mirrors. He went in motion. Did you see that? Your quarterback went in motion. And came back and took those eyes. It's never happened before. That's it. He's transcendent. He's the runaway MVP, says Shannon.
He's not transcendent.
Oh.
Is he transcendent?
I saw him in the Super Bowl game, late in the third quarter, throw an ugly interception and turn right around the next series, early fourth quarter, and throw another uglier interception and should have lost the game. They were down 20-10. They had scored 10 points going fairly deep into the fourth quarter, and then Jimmy Garoppolo happened.
And then what happened? 31, he ends up with 30. Skip, all I'm saying, Skip, okay, the numbers are fraudulent. So now everybody else that has a touchdown, so I just want to make sure I'm hearing Pro Football Focus correctly. So are we going to disregard everybody else touchdowns on screen passes because Aaron Rodgers has a few?
Okay. Let's discount them.
So now we need to rework and see what the numbers are, because Russell Wilson has a few on screen passes. Okay. So screen pass touchdowns moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, do not count. Okay, go ahead.
All right, go ahead. Let's go back to Mahomes' body of work.
Yes.
Week 4, New England at home. He ranked, according to Pro Football Focus, the 30th best performer of the week among quarterbacks in the NFL. Right. His QBR that day was 58. That scale 0 to 100. Okay. That's not very good.
So that was his lowest QBR to date, right?
Okay. Well, he had a 47 at Denver. He ranked 16th best in overall performance that week, but his offense at Denver went 0 for 8 on third down. Not all his fault, but some his fault. Okay. 0 for 8 by transcendent Mahomes boy? Are you kidding me?
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, on Sunday, what was Tom Brady's QBR? For people at home, it was 3.8. If you don't mind me, in Chicago, what was his QBR against the Bears? What was his QBR opening night against the New Orleans Saints? So he's had three, let me sink in for just a second, people. He's had 3 test scores that's lower than Mahomes boy's lowest test score. And somehow, but he has yet to have games that are higher than his. I'm trying to figure that out, Skip. Help me.
The worst that Tom Brady has ranked in Pro Football Focus rankings each week is 24th worst, which was this past week. 24th worst. And Mahomes has a 30th worst on his.
Let this sink in for just a second. A guy throws 0 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. He has a 3.8 QBR, which is the 4th worst of this season. And somehow he ranks 24th. He lost the game 38-3. Mahomes boy won a game against the Patriots, and they said even though he won the game, he was a 30th.
Against Brian Hoyer. That was a Brian Hoyer start, not a Cam start.
Let me ask you a question. What was it against Nick Foles? Now, I just want you to know, Nick Foles has double the amount of loss this year than Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky is 3-0. The 5 losses have come at the hands of your guy, Nick Foles.
Okay. Remember, body of work. Brady 3 times has ranked 3rd in a weekly performance list, and he has a 5th and a 6th. Those add up to higher ratings than your guy has.
Skip, what does your eyes tell you, Skip? I get all the grades.
I know what my eyes told me, that against Aaron Rodgers and then against Derek Carr and the suddenly hot Raiders at Las Vegas. Right. He just put on a show against the Los Angeles Chargers. They're down 24-7. It was a, as you say, virtuoso.
Whoa, with the Chargers?
Yeah.
Is that what we hyping? We talking about the Chargers?
Yeah, 24-7 down.
Oh.
Yeah, that team's got talent.
Do you remember we were down? You remember my homeboy was down? What was he down? 17-3 against the Chargers and come back? And you said, how do you do that? How do you get down to the Chargers? And he came back and won. Now, Tom Brady was down at home to the Chargers, and now you hyping him. I just want to know, Skip, I just want to know. So if people help me understand, if I have more touchdowns, fewer interceptions, a higher completion percentage, higher yards per attempt, higher QBR, my team scores more points than yours, how are the quarterback rated higher than me?
Inconsistent season for Patrick Mahomes. Lower grades, terrible grade against the Patriots.
Skip, let me ask you a question. Think about what you just said. The man is having a horrible season. And he has the greatest numbers at this point.
I didn't say horrible. I said inconsistent.
He's having can you imagine? Just to let this sink in, people. Patrick Mahomes is having an inconsistent season. He's 25 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 2,700 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness.
And yesterday you were offended when I said, oh, Brady's having a better year. Well, a highly respected website.
No, it ain't highly respected.
It is, too.
No, it ain't.
Ask Mike McCarthy, ask Chris Collinsworth, because they have contributed to this website.
Let me tell you, Skip, though I had a doctor, well-renowned, tell me, he said, those that can do, those that can't teach. Those that can't do what they grade others to do.
Well, Mike McCarthy can coach.
I can't tell.
Well, he did win a Super Bowl.
I can't tell. No. Whoa. What's he been without Aaron Rodgers? Now, he had this 65 win percentage. What's his win percentage without Aaron?
Chris Collinsworth could do, because once upon a time he was a Pro Bowl receiver and played in a Super Bowl, as I recall.
Skip, all I'm telling you is that you tell me my eyes should tell me the story. Now, I'm looking at the games and I'm watching. Skip, you put Aaron Rodgers, I got no problem with Aaron Rodgers being in front of him. But I don't even know if Russ now should be in front, if Russ should be up there, because two of his last 3 games, Skip, he got to be out of the running at some point in time. You can't keep turning the ball over 4 times, 3 times. This man has 1 turnover. Everybody, let that sink in for a second, Skip. This man has fewer turnovers than everybody else that's in front of him. Tom Brady got 7 picks.
5 of them against New Orleans.
And I don't know what New Orleans I got to do with it. Maybe they got a voodoo doll on it. But all I know is your guy got more interceptions in 1 game than my guy got for 9 games.
And your guy has, let's see, 2 more turnover-worthy plays than Tom Brady.
Skip, hold on. I just want to know.
It's what your eyes tell you when you put the tape in and you look and you say, my God, they dropped another interception.
Hold on, Skip. But I want to know, what goes directly to losing games? Turnover-worthy plays or turnovers?
Well, turnovers.
Okay, so they
drop. He's got good drops by the defense.
You know what Pro Football Focus is saying, people at home? They playing well enough to win. Did they win? A simple yes or no. I don't want to hear that they playing well enough to win. They lost. That's what it Skip. The menu. I got at the menu. See, when you come to the club, Skip, that's all I got. I got dubs and L. Now, all I know is Tom Brady came and he got that L. The Cowboys, I can't keep them out. I can't keep them from getting
It's about the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It's about Tom Brady.
Skip, nobody thinks Tom Brady has played better than Patrick Mahomes.
Well,
Skip,
that's not true. A bunch of smart people at this website definitely think that. You got to accept it. You are getting blinded by love and hate.
Skip.
Love and hate.
Skip, you put Aaron Rodgers in front of Patrick Mahomes. I'm not gonna argue. He's had 1 bad game. He played terrible against the Bucs. Okay, Skip, I'm not arguing that. But to say Tom Brady
just killing you that a 43-year-old is having a better year overall, body of work, than how old is he? 25 still?
I want to get a poll. Can we get a poll up?
25.
I guarantee you, Skip, if we had the poll in Tampa, we can put a poll up in Tampa. Don't put it in Canada. I don't want to make it the United States. I just want to make it Tampa. And I want the people to ask, is Tom Brady having a better season than Patrick Mahomes?
They'll say yes in Tampa.
In Tampa, yes, they probably will, but that's Tampa.
No mercy.
Colonel Jason Kelly, Commander, United States Army Corps of Engineers, South Atlantic Division. I want to say thank you to all of our veterans who have served around the world protecting our great nation.
NFL.com's analysts all voted on who they believed will win the league's Offensive Player of the Year. Now that we are just past halfway in the season, hard to believe, guys. Saints running back Alvin Kamara took 11 of the 28 votes for the top spot ahead of Dalvin Cook and Patrick Mahomes, who rounded out the top 3. So, Shannon, do you agree?
Skip, I would put him slightly ahead of Dalvin Cook. But I don't know if you noticed, but Dalvin Cook has picked up some steam, and he's coming fast, because this offense, the Minnesota, it doesn't work without him being great. His 3 wins, 208 scrimmage yards, and he's run wild the last 2 weeks. Ask the Packers and ask the Detroit Lions, because we've seen first cousins. When they tried to put the ball in his hands, Skip, About 10 interceptions. So they said, you know what, Gary Kubiak, who was my offensive coordinator, who was my backup quarterback when I first got to Denver, Skip, he's like, you know what, we're going to run this, and we're going to play action pass, and the guy's going to be wide open, and so we're going to minimize your involvement in the offense, Kirk. Hope you can understand that. Because guess what, Skip? He was in Washington, right? With Mike Shanahan. You don't think Gary Kubiak called Mike Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan says, okay, guys, what's this guy's strengths and weaknesses? How do I call a game plan for him? They've given him the blueprint. They've seemed to be taken off. Alvin Kamara, Skip, he's been unbelievable because it seems to me that when he plays well, the offense flourishes. And it's not like, Skip, he's not a guy that's going to average 100 yards rushing. He's not going to be a running back like say like a Dalvin Cook, like a Derrick Henry. That's not what he is. He's an all-purpose back. You throw it to him, you catch, you hand it to him, you pitch it to him. He can do so many different things, and he's slippery, he's slithery. I mean, he gets through. Look, I'm like, man, they got him for 1 yard. Next thing you know, he's 8 yards and on the ground. So for me, I say he has the only thing, if Dalvin Cook had a winning record, I would put him ahead of Alvin Kamara. But because he's 3-5, and he's going to have to probably get this team in the playoffs, Skip, to win this, because he's on pace for 1,800 yards. He's played one fewer game, and he has probably like 7, 8 more yards, scrimmage yards. But right now, I would go Kamara. But that guy in Kansas City, he might take sweepstakes. Forget Offensive Player of the Year. He might get MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. And might get Walter Payton Man of the Year after what he did opening up those polling stations. He went half with the Chiefs to open a polling station at Arrowhead. So he might get Walter Payton Man of the Year. Really, really sweepstakes.
Okay, let's go back to the premise of what we're about to debate here. According to my man, Jim Trotter, friend of mine, does an extraordinary job of covering this league and has for years and years. Congratulations to him. But his point here is that someone other than a quarterback deserves an offensive award if the MVP goes always to a quarterback.
Unless you have an Adrian Peterson type season.
Okay, but then we need to differentiate and rename what we're talking about here, the non-quarterback player of the year, okay? But it's not the non-quarterback. It's just called Offensive Player of the Year.
It's kind of like the Heisman, Skip. More times than not, the Heisman's going to a quarterback.
Okay. And then he makes his case for Kamara, saying he's pretty much carried the Saints offense after Michael Thomas went down, and Kamara has a chance to break the league's single-season record for receptions by a running back. Well, obviously he does, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Without Michael Thomas for 6 games and Emmanuel Sanders for 2 games in targets, Saints targets, Kamara has 72 targets. Next on the list is Emmanuel Sanders at 44. He is more of a receiver than a running back.
Yes.
He's averaging 59 rush yards a game. Dalvin's up at 123 a game. So Dalvin's doubled him, okay? He catches. He can really catch. Does that make him a great receiver in and of itself? No, it does not. He ranks 20th in the league in receiving yards, okay? So you can't say, gee, he's a transcendent receiver who happens to be called a running back and carries the ball some. No, that's not what's happening. They were stuck. So without their 2 best pass receivers, they flip it to him a lot.
Yes, they do.
It's why Drew Brees is leading the league at 74% completions, okay? Now, here's my point about this. If Mr. Trotter's going to make the case to me that Kamara should be the Offensive Player of the Year because he has carried the Saints, you know who's not getting near enough MVP love right now? It's that old man quarterback playing for the Saints, 41-year-old Drew Brees. We don't hear his name at all in any MVP talk. What has he done? To me, he's carried the Saints without their 2 top receivers for a long stretch, all the way to 6-2. Guess what 6-2 right now is?
Best in the NFC.
It's the #1 seed in the NFC. Okay, so help me out. If it's a quarterback's game in the end, and Drew Brees is the quarterback of the #1 seed, and he's been down the Offensive Player of the Year from last year, Michael Thomas, for 6 games out of 8, and he lost Emmanuel Sanders, his new #2 receiver, for 2 games, why shouldn't he be the MVP? Because look what he did. They've played 2 huge games, opening game and this last Sunday night against the GOAT. And what has Drew Brees done against the GOAT? He's thrown 6 touchdown passes with no interceptions. Is that work?
But Tom Brady rated higher than him. So
okay. Well, what I'm saying is, was that good? Oh,
yeah,
that was great, right? And Sunday night, he had a QBR of 99 at Tampa, as I call it, Tampa Bay. He shredded them.
Right.
And the 99 ranks second for the whole year in QBR to Ryan Fitzpatrick, who just had one of those nights at San Francisco, or one of those days, I should say, where he was just like out of his mind. And he had a slightly higher 99-ish QBR. Okay?
I think the thing is, Skip, is that Drew hasn't been the Drew that we're used to seeing.
Okay, but I think there's a perception, and you brought it up on the show, he just doesn't have the arm anymore.
Right.
There's a perception that this is the last hurrah, that he is winding down his career.
Right.
That's not what people think about Brady. They think he's trying in the next 2 or 3 years to win another Super Bowl in Tampa, right? So he's still, so to speak, on the rise in his new locale.
Right.
But Drew Brees is on the way out in New Orleans. Well, I think that's unfair to Drew Brees because he's having a year, man.
We saw Drew at Oakland. In Las Vegas.
Yep.
We've seen him against the Packers. We've seen him play games in which he hasn't played well. And I think that's what's hurt him, is that in some of those games, and because those games were on television, we get an opportunity.
Okay, you just brought up the 2 games they lost.
Right.
They lost at Las Vegas 34-24, and the Green Bay score was 37-30 at New Orleans. Okay, not like they got Brady on Sunday night. It wasn't 38-3.
That's what I've been trying to tell you about my homeboy.
Yeah.
He lost one game and he scored and he had 340 and 2 tubs and with 32 points.
That's what I've been trying to tell you about Aaron Rodgers. He got bum rushed at Tampa Bay 38-3.
Well, guess what? And Drew said, I got you. Drew said, I'll make it up for you, A-Rod.
He did.
Because he tried to come up here and take over the NFC, and we don't have that.
Okay.
So they teamed up on him and got him.
So in the end, to me, if you're going to talk about Offensive Player of the Year, Dalvin's disqualified. Unfortunately, it's not his fault.
Right.
They're 3-5.
Right.
I can't do it. Can't make the case.
Skip, he's going to have to. Now, if he gets this team into the playoffs, we're going to have a different argument. Because we saw what Michael Thomas won it last year, but he had over 1,700 yards and 149 catches, which was the most in NFL history. So if you do something like that, I think Todd Gurley won it one year, but Todd had like 22, 23 rushing touchdowns, 1,500 yards, got into the play. So if you do something like that, Dalvin Cook is on this pace. He gets 1,800 because he's missed a game. Now, he's only played 7 games, and he's like 850 rush yards. He does that. It finishes with 800, 1,900 yards with 60 catches, and they make the playoffs. Well, I don't know how it's going to be hard to keep that award from him.
Can he keep this pace because he had 163 at Green Bay and 206 against Detroit? Yeah. Can you keep doing that?
Well, it's going to be tough. You got tough sledding now against Chicago this week, so we'll see. Now, don't think they're not going to run the football. I know Gary Kubiak very well. Skip, been known him 30 years. Oh, they're running the football.
Then guess who visits a week from Sunday? My team.
Visit where?
Visits Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, he finna run wild. He finna run wild. He finna run wild on y'all.
He might get 300. I don't know.
First cousin? First cousin might be dealing against y'all.
He dealt against us last year.
Should we do like a viewing party, hang out together, watch the game? Maybe, you know.
Thank you.
So,
the Cowboys play Minnesota?
I think that would be great.
The Cowboys play Minnesota? Oh,
yes.
He about to break the record. He about to break Adrian Peterson's record.
I'm going to make sure you know it and you hear about it from me if that is the case.
Can I get 2 cases right now?
No.
Come on, Skip.
I need 2 cases of something else to get through the game.
You still got some time.
No mercy.
They stepped up and enlisted to bravely serve our country. But life is challenging, and sometimes we need a shoulder for support. 2 things that should never go together: veterans and homelessness. That's where U.S. Vets comes in. Founded by veterans to uplift veterans, U.S. Vets is an army of professional staff, donors, veterans, and civilian volunteers alike.
U.S. Vets is the home base for opportunity.
In honor of Veterans Day, Fox Sports proudly salutes those who serve our country. That's why Fox Sports and Fox Corporation are working with U.S. Vets, the nation's largest nonprofit provider of comprehensive services to homeless and at-risk veterans, to ensure food stability and meals for veterans beginning this Veterans Week and through the holiday season. Learn how you can help by visiting usvetsinc.org. Let's get back to the NBA. Trade rumors have been swirling around the Rockets being open to dealing Russell Westbrook this offseason. One of the teams rumored to have interest in acquiring the perennial all-star guard are the Clippers. So, Shannon, could you see the Clippers acquiring Westbrook?
I don't, Skip, and I don't see it working, Skip. He's not the type of point guard they need. Rajon Rondo is the type of point guard that they need. And to pair him, now, if you're trying to compete with star power, LeBron and AD, and you're trying to do that, okay, fine, I see bringing Russ on. But Skip, he's not the type of point guard that you need. Rondo is the guy that's a pure point guard that's going to get you in and out of your sets, that's not looking for his shot, that's not trying to get 20, 30 points a night. I just don't see how Russ, PG, and Kawhi is going to work. And if you bring on Russ, say bye-bye to Trez, say bye-bye to Lou Will, say bye-bye to Pat Bev. Now, one of those guys, you know, they might be happy to say bye-bye to. I thought they had a point guard. Why you need all these point guards if you got a point guard? Now, Skip Bayless told me, oh, they got it. Ooh, he's the third most important player on that team. And they're looking at 2 point guards, not 1, 2. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, hyping that man up like that. Skip, how do I say this? And I don't want to be, I try to be kind because, you know, I said my New Year's resolution was to be kind, not to be as harsh, but since 2020 did.
I couldn't tell.
Since 2020 did what it did to us, I will do it back. Skip Bayless, the Clippers choked. Let's skip. Let's
How many more days do I have to hear this? Skip. It's all you got.
Skip.
We got to get this season started. When does camp open? Because that's the end of it.
No.
I'm going to give you until, what is it, December 1st?
No. We got to play our first game. We got to drop the banner.
No, when camp opens, it's over.
Skip.
You're done gloating.
Skip, y'all did.
Opening day, no more.
Skip, y'all had it. So what else do you need? Now, at first, you told me Kawhi, everybody told me Kawhi was the dog. They don't need nothing. Why? He want to beat LeBron. He don't want to join LeBron. He want to beat LeBron. Now they scouring the universe, trying to get somebody to do what he couldn't do. If that's take down the king. Skip, we got a dynasty going over there. We like the Grimaldis in Monaco. You know what I'm saying, Skip? We ain't going nowhere. 900 years in the making. Now, we might not be here 900 years, but we going to be here another 900 days for sure. So, no, this does not seem like a good idea to me. Rondo would be a much better fit. Rondo, Russ, Kawhi, PG. Skip, you think that's a good match? You think that's a good lineup? No, you don't.
So, I think I just heard you admit on live national TV that Rondo to the Clippers will be the magic move.
No, I'm saying that would be a better fit than Russ to the Clippers. No question. A guy that he's a pure point guard that looks to get others involved and is not worried about scoring 25 points a night.
Okay. I agree with your premise for a very different reason than you are suggesting to me from across the table. The Clippers don't need Russell Westbrook.
Right.
I admire him because he plays so hard.
I do. I love that.
But he is so self-absorbed. He's still too much of a solo act. I enjoyed watching him play with James Harden just because they grew up nearby each other here in Southern California and just south of here in Los Angeles.
Right.
They played against each other coming up in AAU. They have a depth of feeling for each other that transcends the both of their star powers.
Right.
And somehow I thought it worked pretty well.
Right.
Pretty well. Obviously, they went way small. And now there's a report on ESPN.com that both Westbrook and Harden, through their representatives, have voiced some frustration and doubt about the direction the franchise is heading because obviously now Daryl Morey is not running it anymore. He's running the Sixers.
And D'Antoni is in Brooklyn.
And young Steven Silas, he's not that young, but he's a young coach anyway. He's taken over. But all of a sudden, it's Raphael Stone as the new GM.
Right.
And I don't know much about Raphael Stone, and they probably don't really know much either, but they're starting to get a little nervous about where are we going here.
Correct.
So it was 1 year, and it didn't really pay off any big dividend. Thanks to your guys, they ran over them. And it was a Danielle House situation where he left the house in the bubble and got disqualified.
Okay, if I can't bring up the Clippers choke, you can't mention Danielle House anymore.
Right, that's fair. That's the last time I'm going to do it. But I do think that was a contributing factor to their demise. But the point is, we're getting close to one or both demanding a trade out of Houston.
Yes.
Okay. So what? Will Daryl Morey somehow work his magic again and figure out a way to get one of these two to Philadelphia? Maybe. He might.
He wants James Harden.
I'm sure he does.
Because his whole analytical bubble is based on James Harden.
Yep. Okay, got it. And he put an ad in the Houston paper saying, "You changed my life." When he left.
did.
Okay, all right, got it. Revolutionary player. Russ, not so much, although he did average a triple-double for how many years?
3 years.
3 years in a row? That's impossibly great as a solo act. I'm not saying it contributes to winning championships, but as an individual achievement,
He did that.
It's extraordinary.
Yes.
Whoa. Now I'm going to defend my Clippers because they deserve defending. They don't need anybody except Rondo. And I'm going to dig in on this because I don't care who you want to bring, what other perennial all-stars, they don't need it. Paul George is going to be just fine because he and Kawhi have the same link. They have the same sort of soulmate connection that I thought James and Russ would have in Houston.
But what, gagging in the playoffs?
No, they both grew up in this neighborhood right around here, and they knew each other all the way, and Kawhi said, I got to go get him, and Oklahoma City and Sam Presti said, we will make this happen.
Yes.
They both can defend at a very high level. So let me get this straight, shall we? As we entered the playoffs that just finished, as we entered, not entered the season, entered the playoffs, Las Vegas said, all the odds makers said, the favorite is the Los Angeles, not Lakers, but the Clippers. They were favored to win the playoffs. And when they ran into Denver, which suddenly got hot, look at what they did to Denver. They were up 3-1. They actually handled Denver better than the Lakers handled them through the first 4 games. And then what happened in 5, 6, and 7? They were up 15 points in the first closeout and 19 points in the second closeout and 12 points in the closeout game 7.
In the third quarter.
They're up. They're up. They're showing you. They're flexing their star power and their firepower. They're showing you they're much superior to the Denver Nuggets.
But you had Kawhi, Skip.
They needed a closer, and I told you from the start, Kawhi's not a natural-born closer.
Well, what about
Paul
PG?
George is not a natural-born closer.
What about Sweet Lou Will?
Thank you. He is. I think Trez is a natural-born closer. But what happened? They didn't even want to go to the bubble in the first place. And when they got to the bubble, Pat Bev left the bubble for a while. I don't know what was going on. He left. We know why Montrez left. He had an issue with his family. Okay, we get that. Good with that. But then Lou left to go to some kind of wake, I think it was, in Atlanta, and then we know...
Family friend father.
Yes, correct. And then you nicknamed him Lemon Pepper Lou.
Yeah.
Magic City. So he went from the Magic Kingdom in Orlando to Magic City and had to come back and quarantine. No good. They did not want to be there. And in fact, my man Jared Dudley said 2 weeks ago on a podcast, those boys did not want to be in that bubble. The bubble benefited your guys hugely. You were in the right place at the rightest time. The right place was bubble, and the rightest time for you was a pandemic.
Mentals.
Yeah, mentals. And so my team didn't even want to be there. My team wasn't together yet. There was no unity. They didn't play enough games together because all those, whatever you want to call those play-in type games, they weren't there. They weren't together. And then when the stuff hit the fan and you know what happened and it looked like, with off Kenosha, the Clippers were the first to vote, we're out. And I thought the Lakers were going to be out, but no, they were united. And LeBron said, I have got a chance. He smelled blood from the start. I got the mentals here. I can keep my team together. We don't have Avery Bradley because he didn't even ever opt in, so he never even went to the bubble. Fine, we got that. But the guys who were there were really there.
That's what we do. That's what LeBron does.
That gave you a huge advantage, and you lucked into it. You won the COVID championship. Congratulations. You get a cubic zirconia ring for that.
No. See, you say you try to diminish what we did?
It was fraudulent because it was an aberration. It was the craziest thing that's ever happened in the history of the world.
So let me ask you a question. So if whoever wins the Super Bowl, is that going to be an aberration?
I don't care. I'm only caring about the Clippers and the Lakers.
No. We got the title. So this is what we're going to do, Skip. We won the title last year. We're going to back it up. So if we back it up.
Well, I don't even know what's going to happen this year.
Don't worry about what happens.
I think they're going to play home games, quote unquote, with no fans. It sounds like that's what's going to happen. But at least that would be a more legitimate way to have to go win.
I mean, the Clippers
are you going to have to fly and play road games?
The Clippers will be right at home because they got no fans anyway. Yeah. We got the fans. Okay. The Staples.
So the point is, the Clippers don't need any dramatic changes. They were the favorites. It was bubble. It bubbled up and bubbled over. That's what happened to the Clippers. They were not invested in the bubble. So if they get invested in the new season, whatever it is, 72 games, then let's see what happens going forward. You don't need to break up the Clippers. You just need to add one small but very important piece, playoff Rondo.
So in other words, you need another lead singer. Now you got two guys. That say they lead dogs, and now you need to bring one.
You got two lead dogs coming off the bench. And again, they got to re-sign Montrez.
Kawhi. Hey, they was up there, and people at home, they was up there, had a lead. They was up, 19 points in game 4? Game 5.
Yep.
Game 5 in the third quarter. And I saw Kawhi over there. Stop the count. Stop the count.
I don't think he was saying that.
He was.
No,
y'all terrible.
He wasn't saying
So hold on. How long much you say I got December 1st? So I got 19, 20. I got 20 days, baby. I got 3 weeks.
Keep gloating. Yep.
Okay, well, if that's the case,
don't try
then
to sell that ring
LeBron
because it's
blooper
not
videos
legitimate.
either. The ring is legit.
That thing gonna be so big.
Yeah.
Ooh, gonna be big like the Hope Diamond.
Somehow
jeweler
Shannon
would take
thinks
one look
he's
and
getting
say,
one,
"No,
which is
I'm out."
more
You gonna put that machine on
surprising
me?
thing here.
No mercy.
I'm Captain Olivia Lee Schretzman with the 92nd Engineer Battalion. I want to say hi to my family up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Go Chiefs. Go Patrick Mahomes.
Olivia, thank you. Shannon, looks like you're not the only big Mahomes fan on the show.
Skip, Olivia, that's my sister's name, and Fort Stewart. I grew up about 22 miles from Fort Stewart in Georgia. So, she all good with me. She all good with me.
She's all good with me, and I love what she does for us, except I don't love her allegiance.
You're a hater.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Now, I can just imagine if you had my homeboy in Dallas, you would be unbearable.
If only. If only.
I got Tom Brady in Tampa. I'm
Okay, Tom.
good.
Did you see what happened Sunday night?
That's one game.
We all saw it. We're moving on from Sunday. I don't know if we're going to get any shout-outs for Carson Wentz, though, because that is your other guy, Shannon. And before tearing his ACL in 2017, Wentz was in the MVP discussion and was a top 6 quarterback by several metrics. Fast forward to 2020, and Wentz is now 26th in QBR. The Philadelphia quarterback also leads the NFL in interceptions, turnovers, and sacks this season. All of them. Shannon, you have been driving the Wentz bandwagon since his rookie year in 2016. Can you defend him now?
I just don't know how many quarterbacks could be successful in this situation. Skip, he's had D-Jack. D-Jack has played 7 games in 2 years. Alshon has played 10 games in 2 years. Last year, he had the worst group of receivers in the NFL. Now, think about it this year.
Not worse than Tom Brady.
Whoa, time out. Okay, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Alshon is yet to play this year. D-Jack has played, 2 games, and he got hurt in both of those games. He's playing without 2 of his tight ends. Zach Ertz is hurt now. He played about 5 games without Dallas Goedert. He's missed 3 of his offensive linemen. Miles Sanders is going down. So I would say, propose it to you like this. I'm going to say, Tom Brady, I'm going to take your top 3 receivers. I'm going to take your 2 top tight ends. I'm going to take both of your running backs, and I'm going to take 3 of your offensive linemen. How do you think he performs? Not very well. You do that with any quarterback. Skip, when you have Frank Reich, the problem that I have with Doug Peterson, the head coach, is that Frank Reich called plays according to what he had on the field. He had a top offensive line. He had very good receivers, so you could do scat protection. Dougie P is calling plays like he still got that. Lane Johnson has been in and out of the lineup. Remember, Bad Books got hurt again. Jason Peters, he was hurt, just came back against Dallas. No mindset. He played with Boston Scott. The dude got 2 last names.
The dude can play.
And now he's throwing the Fulgham practice squad. Greg Ward Jr. was on the
Fulgham
practice
can play. Greg Ward Jr. can play.
Skip, they're playing, but they're practice. Skip, they weren't counting on those guys. There's a reason why.
Jalen Reagor can play.
Skip, Jalen Reagor just got back. Remember, he was hurt. Remember, he got hurt early. D-Jack, hurt again. Alshon, yet to play. Zach Ertz, hurt. Goddard, just got back. Look at that. Lane Johnson, out again. Barrett Brooks, not there. The left tackle that they drafted in the first round got hurt. They bumped Peters from guard to tackle. He just got back against Dallas. Skip, what he's having to overcome and to have this team in position. Can you imagine if he had all of his top receivers like they got in Dallas? Can you imagine if he had his top running backs like they have in Dallas?
What top back? Help me out. Who? Who are you talking about? Tony Pollard?
So in other words, you would take Boston Scott over Zeke Elliott.
In Impact right now, I would. Every time I turn on the TV and watch Boston Scott, he just lights it up.
The thing is, Dougie P is going to have to call plays, Skip. He's going to have to make adjustments because the pressure is getting there and he's throwing. Now, I'm not going to absolve Wentz. Just because the pressure is getting there, that don't mean you just throw it to the opposing guy. He's made some bad decisions. But to be able to have this team in first, even in a terrible division, is a feat in and of itself, Skip. But if you look at what he's playing through, you have to give the man kudos.
Kudos. I give him no kudos because I told you, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you during his rookie year, I don't like his intangibles. I don't like his poise. I don't like his ability to react to any kind of pressure. I don't like the fact that he tries to throw it through brick walls of defenders and too many passes get intercepted. I don't like it that he's turned into the equivalent of a Las Vegas slot machine. You just pull his arm down and the ball just pops out on the ground. Yeah, I got jokes because he's fumbled 55. He's lost 55 fumbles since his rookie year. That's by far the most in the whole league.
Yeah, of course.
And this year, in every quarterback metric you want, and I could go on and on, we just don't have enough show. According to this analysis, he ranks at or near the bottom in every statistical measure of a quarterback. As this analysis concludes, his internal clock is a mess. He holds the ball way too long.
He does.
Their sack rate is dead last in the league. And then when he tries to improvise, really bad things happen because he's running away with the individual turnover record, this year.
Dan Jones going to catch him, though.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't think so. And the point is that he did suffer a terrible injury to his ACL on December 10th of 2017. And at that point, he was having a magical ride.
He's going to be the MVP.
Yeah, he probably would have been the MVP. They were 11-2 at that point, and he led the NFL in QBR. But according to this analysis, if you break it down and look hard at what happened that year versus every other year that he's played, it was a statistical anomaly. It was just a freakish aberration of a year where he got hot and stayed hot. And then what happened? Well, they showed you what happened. That team was so good. It was so deep and so talented. The backup quarterback took over and became the Super Bowl MVP. And they ended up the next year building a shrine in the locker room to Nick Foles because they don't love this kid as a leader. He doesn't have natural-born leadership intangibles. And we've seen big bombshell expose stories in Philadelphia about how they question his leadership. Seems like he's improved some in that category this year, but the results aren't good because there are too many turnovers and too many losses for a team that's still better than the Dallas Cowboys. They should be running away with this division.
That's Skip. Do you remember what happened when your guy Dak Prescott, who you said is exponentially better than Carson Wentz, played without Zeke, played without Tyron Smith, and had no Amari Cooper? Do we remember what Dak Prescott looked like? So just imagine. Now, you just told me that team was so talented and he was on the backup. Well, Jerry Jones has told us he has the most talented team in football. So why haven't they taken off with the backup?
By the way, you just made another case for why Jerry didn't give Dak his money. That stretch in 2017. It scared Jerry because Dak couldn't rise above the loss of his left tackle and his running back.
My guy rising above that right now. But you're still beating him up. Your guy couldn't do it. Look at what your guy got. I mean, just imagine.
Rising above it?
Let me ask you a question, Skip. If I take Amari, CeeDee Lamb, and Gallup away from Dak, I take his 3 top offensive linemen, and I take Pollard, and I take who's the back? Pollard and Zeke.
Yep.
What do you think that would be? Because that's what he did. He's doing that with backups. So you get to play with Wilson. You get to play with, I forget the other guy, number 85. Those are going to be your guys. Those are going to be your wide receivers.
Noah Brown.
Yeah. Those are going to be your wide receivers. Because I'm going to tell you, when you go out there and look struggling, they can play. There are some ballers. Skip, I'm not saying the guy's Patrick Mahomes, but given his degree, like you like to tell me, given his degree of difficulty with what he's got, come on, Skip.
You always tell me how bad that Carson Wentz's protection is. This analysis points out that in pass block win rate, they rank 8th in the league. So it's not great, but it's certainly not awful. They're better than you're giving them credit for. I know they've had injuries and they've had to mix and match.
Yes.
But they've also had their studs for various...
What studs? The only guy...
Lane Johnson?
Lane Johnson is out.
Okay, but they've played some games this year.
Yeah, a few games.
Yeah.
Tyron Smith played a few games, didn't he?
Yep.
Zach Martin played a few games.
We're not talking about them. We're talking about Carson Wentz.
That's my point, Skip, is that given what he's been going up against, I mean, think about it. At the beginning of the season, we're going to have Alshon and we're going to have D-Jack. We're going to have Zach Ertz and we're going to have Dallas Goedert. And we're going to have Jalen Reagor. For stretches, long stretches, they had none of that. Okay, we're going to have, we got Brooks, we got Lane Johnson, we got Kelsey, we're going to have Peters at guard, we're going to have a number 1 pick at left tackle. They had none of that but Kelsey at one point in time.
So, since he got hurt on December 10th of 2017, Carson Wentz is 17-17-1.
Win a division title and about to get number 3.
And why did they draft Jalen Hurts out of the University of Oklahoma? Because they're thinking this is not a long-term answer.
Waste the draft pick. How did Jalen Hurts help? So
Shannon,
what
you
is
gotta
Jalen?
Face it.
Let me ask you a question.
You were wrong about Carson Wentz.
What has Hurts done this year to help the Eagles win a game?
Well, let's start him and see what happens.
Start for what?
That would scare me to death because that would be game over in that division.
Didn't my guy just beat you 2 weeks ago? Beat the brakes off you.
He beat Nooch. He beat B.A.D.
No.
Benjamin Anthony DiNucci.
My guy throwing tubs on your defense.
At this point. No mercy. The Phoenix Suns ended their season on a hot streak, going 8-0 in the Orlando bubble, and now they may be getting more help to kickstart the next season. According to reports, the Suns have been in trade talks to acquire Chris Paul from the Thunder to pair him with Devin Booker in Phoenix. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard joining us this morning. Chris, we've missed you around here. So I start with you. How big of a threat would this make Phoenix in the West to the Lakers?
Absolutely none. Zero, zilch, nil, nada. I mean, this is comical. Look, first let's start. I know people are excited because Phoenix went 8-0 in the bubble. Oh, and if you add Chris Paul, they might be a threat. But let's really examine the 8-0. They did have good wins over the Clippers and the Mavericks and the Pacers. So I don't want to take that away from them. Devin Booker is a rising star and maybe more. And DeAndre Ayton is playing well as well. And some other of the young players, Mikal Bridges and guys like that. So they're a good young team. But if you look at their last 4 victories in the bubble, the opponents were resting their stars. Oklahoma City, in one loss to Phoenix, played Chris Paul 24 minutes. And then their next 4 best players, Steven Adams and Dennis Schroeder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, guys like that, they sat out. When they beat Philadelphia, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Al Horford did not play. When they beat Miami, Jimmy Butler did not play. They beat Dallas, Luka played 13 minutes, and Kristaps Porzingis didn't play at all in the second meeting in the bubble, which Phoenix won. So let's put that in perspective and not overestimate how good they were in the bubble. All that said, this would be a good move for Phoenix. If they could get Chris Paul, it would help them. He'd improve their basketball IQ. He'd bring winning pedigree and a mentality. And importantly, he would help DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker without hindering them, without getting in their way and taking the ball out of their hands, just like he helped Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City. As far as contending, forget it. Forget the Lakers. They wouldn't be with the Clippers or with Golden State.
The Nuggets.
With Denver, and probably not even with Dallas. They would be in that group that would fight for the 6th, 7th, and 8th or 8th seed in the Western Conference. And for a team that hadn't made the playoffs in 10 years, that would be good for the Suns. So I think it would help them. They should do it if they can, but no way. They wouldn't be close to being a contender.
Go ahead, Skip.
No, you go. I want to hear you because I hear Chris, and I heard you earlier on this show, getting a little nervous for your aging man, LeBron James. Uh-oh, here comes another team.
Chris, they would be a threat. They'd be a threat to make the playoffs. That's what the threat is.
Lakers?
No. The Suns would be a threat to make the playoffs considering they hadn't made the playoffs in a decade. That's the only threat. But to the big three, big four at the top, that's not happening. And like you said, I like it because he can play pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton. He can shoot the ball. He can shoot the ball from outside. He can roll to the paint. So, because he would be he's DeAndre Jordan on steroids. I don't think he's the defender that Jordan is, but he's a much better offensive player than DeAndre Jordan. And we know what Book is. Book is ascending on the way to being a superstar. He can put the ball in the basket. It would take him off the ball a lot more. He wouldn't need to average 7 assists like he did last year. So I do believe there'll be a much improved ball club. Now, you're going to have to get rid of some guys to make it fit. Skip said they're about $20+ million under the cap. So Oubre's probably going to be gone. He has 1 year left on his contract. Ricky Rubio's probably going to be gone. And maybe one other player, maybe Cam Johnson and maybe Mikal Bridges.
Well, I think they want to keep both of them.
But they will be improved. They will be must-watch TV because Chris Paul brings that to your organization. And plus, you know what? I want to see it because the thing is, Chris, for me, I'm tired of this man having all these excuses. First, it was the bubble. They went to the bubble, and only LeBron wanted to be in the bubble because, everybody else was missing their family. LeBron James was the only one that didn't miss his family and wanted to stay in the bubble. He gave you all these excuses of why the Clippers gagged and didn't have the meeting that everybody wanted to see, including me, because I wanted to beat them over the head. But they're not going to be a threat to the Lakers, maybe to the Clippers because they might gag again. But to the Big Four, that ain't happening.
I asked both of you, did you pick the Oklahoma City Thunder to be the 4 seed in the West last year?
No.
I asked.
No, I did.
No, nobody saw them coming. Why did they arrive way before anybody saw them coming? Because Chris Paul did not mail it in last year. He went to Oklahoma City and shocked me. He became the driving force of a team that tied for the 4th best record in the West.
Right.
That's an achievement because he took Shai Gilgeous and Steven Adams and Schroeder and Dort and Noel and Basley and Gallinari. And he took that team all the way up to the 4 seed. Well, this is even more made to order for an aging Chris Paul. And if he blesses this trade, he's going to think he has a chance to win in Phoenix.
Win what?
Win it all.
Win a playoff game, win some play, maybe get to the playoffs.
Okay, so let me ask you.
Skip.
Wait, time out. Devin Booker, could you see him winning an MVP at some point in his career? Because I could. I think he's that talented, that explosive.
He's really good.
He is really good.
Could you see a lot MVP, but he's a great player.
Could you see DeAndre Ayton making an all-star team pretty soon? Because I could.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, Chris Paul, perennial all-star. If you have 3 all-star caliber players on one team, and you have what I would call an all-star caliber coach in Monty Williams, who has risen up to have stature and status in this league, that team plays hard and smart for him. And if they could keep Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson, they're nice young players. Yeah. If they can keep Dario Saric, he just comes in and wreaks havoc. He makes things happen. Cameron Payne and Javon Carter. Javon Carter is 3-and-D like crazy. He can shoot the lights out and he can D you up. I like the makeup of this team, and I think both of you are underestimating how much a threat they'd be to the Lakers and the Clippers and the Nuggets and the Jazz and everybody else.
We're immune to threats. We've got vaccinated. We're immune to anything that you can throw at us in the West.
Yeah, you're immune in the bubble, but once you're out of the bubble, you're fair game now.
You do realize we had the #1 seed before we went to the bubble. Do you remember that?
You do realize that all the odds makers said the Clippers were the favorite to win it all going into last year's playoffs in the bubble. The odds makers.
Yeah.
That's it.
What I keep telling
Favored.
you, what did I keep telling you about that? There's a reason why they keep building these $2 billion. You think they're building those with winners' money?
No, that's not what's happening.
That's what's
They just
happening.
said that's the best team. You know it, and I know it.
We were the best team. We've been the best team from start to finish. We had the best record in the West. You said LeBron couldn't do this in the West. Everybody kept saying, oh, he won't do this in the West.
Well,
don't mess with the West.
If you told me a pandemic was coming, I'd say all bets are off because LeBron found himself in the right place, bubble, right time, pandemic.
We the plague. We the one that swept through the West.
Yeah.
You see what we did in the bubble?
The Clippers did not want to be in the bubble.
Skip.
You know it, and I know it.
Skip, here's the other thing, though, we're overlooking. And I'm with Shannon. It'd be a great move. Obviously, you think it'd be a great move. But start talking about Memphis, San Antonio, New Orleans, teams, Portland.
What about, the Blazers?
Don't group Phoenix with the Lakers and the Clippers and all that if they get Chris Paul. Because here's the other thing, Skip. Yes, Chris was great last year, and he played the whole season. You mentioned that he's aging. We all know that. His last 3 years before last year, he had missed more than 20 games each season. And with Houston, I mean, he had championship in his sights. It was legitimately possible, and he still had to miss more than 20 games. So you have to wonder about his health, particularly coming off a short offseason, which is what is going to happen this year with the early start.
And 72 games condensed. So there are going to be a lot of back-to-backs in those.
Right. They'll probably have to sit him in some games, which would make sense.
I know a guy that's going to have to sit a lot because he was sitting a lot during the regular season at 82 games that was spaced out. Can you imagine what 72 games going to do to the old creaky knees?
Yeah.
You know a guy, Shannon?
Can you imagine LeBron actually having to fly to away games now? Ugh.
Things are going to be very, very different. Chris, we appreciate your time. Always good to have you.
No mercy. What's up, Titans fans? This is Corporal Jake Grady from Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. I'm from Greenville, Tennessee. I just want to give a shout out to the Titans fans and my family back home. Tighten up.
Well, we all know what Corporal Jake Brady is going to be doing tomorrow night, watching his Titans take on the division rival Colts as they battle for first place in the AFC South. It all starts at 7:30 Eastern on Fox, NFL Network, and streaming on Prime Video. I'm loving these shout-outs today on Veterans Day. Well, some are already speculating whether Trevor Lawrence could end up in Dallas. During a radio interview, Jerry Jones was asked what he thought about Dallas taking a QB if they were to land the #1 overall pick in the 2021 draft. Jerry said the whole idea was crazy and, quote, it's not the thing to be talking about at all. Dak is our quarterback. Former Cowboys quarterback Orlando Scandrick is with us now. Orlando, if, hypothetically, the Cowboys wound up with the #1 pick, do you really believe, Jerry, that he would not use it on a QB?
No, absolutely not. I think that's the answer that he's going to give you right now. But if you look at just the simple economics, Dak Prescott's going to command about $40 million a year. Trevor Lawrence is going to get $40 million over 4 years with a fifth-year option. Now, it's not nobody. Mr. Bayless, I'm going to ask you, it's no way that you can tell me that Dak Prescott is $35 million a year better than Trevor Lawrence.
You are exactly right. And we talked about this at the top of the show. And you know that situation in Dallas very well because you obviously played there. But if, in fact, this team loses out, which could happen, the only game I see them for sure winning, I think, would be Washington at home on Thanksgiving. And we just saw what happened at Washington. They got run off the field. So I don't know for sure they can even win that game, even though the defense is starting to round back into form. But the point is, if they did fall backwards into the #1 pick, and to your point about economics, yeah, you could get 4 years of Trevor Lawrence for what you could get 1 year of Dak Prescott. And what do we know? Again, I'm back to what do I always say, Shannon, because he tells me, I can see better than I hear. Did your grandfather say that?
My grandfather said that.
All right. Well, so can
Absolutely.
I. And what did I see Jerry do to Dak again and again, saying no, because he's saying you're really good. You're very good. I'll give you 35 a year. I'm sorry, I won't give you 40, 41, 42 a year. I won't vault you up into that Deshaun category or certainly into that 45-ish Mahomes category because you're not that good. So if you gave Jerry the option of having Trevor Lawrence, who by all accounts is going to be a big star in this league, I think Jerry would say, thank you very much, done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me Skip. Me and Uncle Shay, we're going to go to the locker room real quick. You looking at it. So Jerry's saying, even if Dak takes 35 and Trevor Lawrence is going to get $40 million over 4 years, that's $10 million, that's $25 million difference. So when you're looking at it, if you're that bad and I look at Trevor Lawrence as a generational type player. He has Brady, Rodgers, Manning type ability. So what I look at it is I put the franchise tag on Dak and then I can get another one for him. Or I can get a two. I can get multiple assets. I don't see them passing up on a quarterback, that type of quarterback. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is going to keep stadiums full. I mean, I think he's got it all. And I simply think that, and I love Dak, and Dak's a dear friend of mine, but he's going to be a better quarterback. He's going to be, if all falls into place, he's going to be a better quarterback and be a better player than Dak Prescott.
And that's the thing. Think about this. The Green Bay Packers took Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre. Mm-hmm. And we all believe that Brett Favre is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. So you mean to tell me you happen to be for some unforeseen reason, you're in the #1 spot. And this
real quick point of order. I mean, obviously, Aaron fell to 24, so you got him at 24th. Go ahead.
And you're in the #1 spot. And from the time that guy stepped foot in college football, they said when he comes out, he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft. That's what everybody said universally. And you mean to tell me, Jared's like, nah, we good. We got our guy. No, you had your guy. And you're going to take this guy, and you're probably going to let that. Because here's the thing, what you can do. Because now I get him for $35 million over 4 years. Now that's $25 million I'm going to save on Dak because I got to give Dak at least $150 million, Skip. 150 to $180 million over 5 years. So now I can put more pieces around this young dude. Now, for me, do you believe a rookie quarterback? But I'm telling you how Jerry's thinking. Jerry's saying, I've got enough talent that I can take a rookie quarterback and plug him in, and I should be able to go win a Super Bowl. That's how Jerry's thinking.
I would agree.
You can add pieces. You can add pieces to that defense.
Yes.
With the draft capital. I think that he's not going to show his hand. He's not going to say we're going to take a quarterback because I think they have a little bit of a rocky relationship already with Dak Prescott.
They do.
Dak's sitting there thinking.
It ain't rocky. It's full growth.
So if he didn't want to give him a 5-year deal or a 4-year deal, what he wanted now, why wouldn't he? He can get 4 years of this guy, Trevor Lawrence. 4 years, and then you can have an option year. I think it's absolutely. He's playing poker right now. He don't want to show his hand. And then, when you just look at if the Dallas Cowboys end up with the #1 pick in the draft, they're not built to win a Super Bowl. Really, I don't think that there's been a team that had went from worst to first that fast. I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence because I want to add pieces to my defense. I still think they need more pieces on their defense to get better.
I believe if they're the #2 spot, they take Justin Fields.
They might. Yeah. And remember, right now they sit in the #3 spot,
right.
So they're close already.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, I don't think the Jets are going to be the Jets. They're going to lose. You talk about you don't see the Cowboys winning but one more game. I don't see the Jets winning any more games.
Well, but Flacco nearly beat New England the other night. But it required a 51-yard walk-off.
But Skip, then he got the call down his headset and said, look, you throw this post route, even though the guy double covered. And guess what? And now you get a loss because he was dealing up until that point. But for some reason, he comes out, doesn't even look at the flat, doesn't even look at the over route. He throws in a double cover and basically ends the game for them. But
okay, wait a second. How about this hypothetical? What if Jerry's sitting at #2 and the Jets have one and Trevor Lawrence and his representatives say no to the Jets?
Oh, well, guess what? You just said no, but I'm taking you because you're not finna pull no Eli Manning on me. You're not going to pull no John Elway. You're not finna big time me. You're going to play for me or you're not playing for anybody. Now, the choice is yours.
I don't think that works in today's day and age. I think back in the day a little bit, but to go back to the topic, you don't pass up Trevor Lawrence. No,
you can't.
Okay, so Orlando, you know that locker room. Dak is beloved in that locker room. I think he's become beloved in Cowboy Nation. He's become a sympathetic figure because Jerry done him wrong. He obviously lost his brother to a suicide. He's very, as you know, likable. He's not controversial. He's got a number of, I think it's been up to a dozen national TV commercials. So how much would it potentially wreck the locker room if Jerry cut bait with Dak and would have to, obviously, you'd have to trade him at that point. I think you could get maybe a first back for Dak. I would assume you could.
Jerry's number one priority, and always going to be his number one priority, is he's going to do what's in best interest of the Dallas Cowboys. And the lights was bright before Dak got there, and they're going to be bright before he leaves. And he's going to always do what's in best interest of the Dallas Cowboys. And, I've had conversations with Jerry and Steven, and, they want to do whatever it takes to win at all costs. And if that's in the best interest and it's going to help them win, that's what they're going to have to do. And everyone's going to have to understand it. And whoever doesn't like it's not going to be a part of that locker room.
But you know what? Oh, like you said, you and I have both been in the locker room. This is what we're going to say. Man, damn, they did Dak dirty. But I'm going to show up to work tomorrow. That's just how it works. Oh, that's just how it worked. Man, they shouldn't have did. Man, they should have paid Dak. But you're going to show up to work tomorrow and start grinding again and try to win a championship.
Absolutely.
Yep. So here's why it's hard for me to defend a Dak Prescott that I have defended to the death sitting in this chair for the last 4 years. If I look at Dak's last 17 starts, he's 6-11. Well, that's not all his fault. Obviously, the defense has been deplorable, and I can go on and on about injuries, offensive line. But still, there have been a number of times they've been full strength, and he hasn't been great.
Right.
So that's why Jerry dug in and said, hey, I haven't seen enough. He's 1-2 in the postseason. I haven't seen enough down the stretch last year. They went 5-8 down the stretch last year. And as you guys remember, at New Orleans, then against Green Bay, and at Chicago, and against Buffalo on Thanksgiving, and then at New England and at Philly. It was just no, until Jerry just said, I'm sorry, I have a reputation for overpaying my stars, but he's not a superstar quarterback, so I'm not going to give him Deshaun Mahomes money. Well, now that you've said that, you've sent a message to the locker room, I'm not buying in long-term to Dak Prescott. So if they vault all the way up to, like you said, Justin Fields, I think he's going to take off and rival Trevor for the first overall pick. What if somebody decides we want Justin Fields at 1? Well, if Jerry's sitting at 2, Trevor Lawrence, 6 feet 6 inches tall with long blondish hair, I'll take that guy, right?
He's Texas.
Yep.
I mean, just on the sheer of the quarterback, if you can get a quarterback and have a quarterback, look what the Chiefs did, how they were able to win and assemble that talent. He had a quarterback on his rookie deal. Look what Seattle was able to do and how they built that defense, a quarterback on his rookie deal.
They did.
Just to say that, no, absolutely, we wouldn't do it, it's just false. I mean, I think it's false. And I mean, Jerry always controls the narrative, and he's done that. And Skip, you've been around the Cowboys a lot longer than I have. He's always going to control the narrative. But the simple fact of, that locker room seen Michael Irvin leave, it's seen Troy Aikman leave, it's seen Emmitt Smith go to a different, and this is guys that made America's team. So if I'm looking at if I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, I'm gonna take the opportunity. But the X factor here is I don't know, because they're so dug in and committed to Mike McCarthy. And when I think about Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan, I really just think about the guys that passed up on A-Rod to select Alex Smith.
No mercy.
Following the Saints' 38-3 thrashing of the Buccaneers, David Carr said the rest of the league now has the blueprint on how to beat Tom Brady. Applying pressure to Brady is the key, according to Carr, in order to throw off his timing with his receivers and not allow the 43-year-old QB to make any deep throws. And the Saints did a great job of that, pressuring Brady on 50% of his dropbacks. Orlando Scandrick is still with us this morning. Orlando, do you agree that the Saints showed us the blueprint to stopping Tom Brady?
I wouldn't say the blueprint. I would say the Saints, they're really, really familiar with Tampa Bay, or as Skip calls them, Tampa Bay. And the Saints have a quarterback that loves to throw on time, and the Bucs defense is, you want to show us all these multiple fronts. You want to give us all these crazy exotic blitzes. Drew Brees is just going to hit the hots. And then when you want to try and play coverage and, I'm going to find the soft spots in the zone. And then from the Saints defensively, Marshawn Lynch plays Mike Evans as well as anyone in the league.
Marshawn Lattimore.
Marshawn Lattimore. I'm sorry. Marshawn Lattimore plays Mike Evans really, really well. And it allows them to have the flexibility to roll coverages to the Saints' other weapon. To the Bucs' other weapons.
Yeah, look, Skip, this is not a blueprint. The blueprint's always been out there, and that's with any quarterback. Put pressure on him. The Saints just have the unique ability. If you look at when they played Denver, what could Denver do? Denver could apply pressure with their front four. Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, Malik Jackson, and Derek Wolfe, and then you had the no-fly zone. Chris Harris Jr., Aqib Talib, Bradley Roby. Skip, everybody doesn't have that, though. No. So who else can put pressure with their front four and then go man-to-man with Jack Rabbit, Janoris Jenkins, and Marshawn Lattimore? Who else can do that in the AFC, in the NFC? Maybe the Rams can put pressure with their front four with Aaron Donald, Brockers, Floyd, and Kaiser, some of those other guys, and rely on Ramsey on the back, Ramsey and a couple of guys on the back end. But not everybody has that ability.
Yeah, but that's not where that game got out of control. I know you all want to say, or everybody wants to say, put it on Brady, but the defense in Tampa Bay, if you give anybody a 3-score lead, it's going to be hard for a quarterback. Tom's got to be perfect.
Hold on, time out. If I'm not mistaken, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got the ball first. So what did they do?
They went 3 and out.
Okay. So New Orleans gets the ball, goes down the field, goes 7-0. They kick the ball off to Tampa. Okay, what did Brady and the Bucs offense do?
3 and out. But
okay, hold on just a second. One more time.
He winds up throwing a bomb to Antonio out of his end zone under duress.
Okay. So now this is what we do. So we get the ball back again. They go down the field and score. It's 21-0. They kick the ball off to Tampa. What did Brady do? So to say that Tampa's defense, it's not like basketball, make it, take it. You get an opportunity. You get an opportunity to score too.
But you played in this league, and you understand when you have to, if you're a rusher or you're a defensive player and it's pass coming every time, pass rusher just pass. The DBs you're not worrying about crack replacing. You're not worrying about there's no screen game now. They got to push the ball downfield. There's no run game. And if you watch Tom over the years, if you watched him when he was most successful in New England, it was play action. It was balance. They might not have had 1,000-yard, 1,500-yard rushers, but it's been balance. And Tom's never had that huge arm where he just bombs away.
But that's what I've been trying to tell people, and Bruce Arians is going to have to come to this realization. The offense that you want to run is really not conducive for Tom. You saw that offense they were trying to push the ball down the field. That's why that game got out of hand, because they couldn't run the football and BA wanted to throw the ball down the field. You better take those flats. You better take that check down to that intermediate stuff, because that's not what Tom is good at. Tom is not Jameis. He convinced Jameis to throw the ball. That's why Jameis had a lot of turnovers. You see what Tom did when Tom tried to push the ball down the field? He had 3 turnovers. You better let him run his offense, BA, because prior to Sunday, he was doing what he did. Check down, little screens, flare, plus they were running the ball with Roe Jones, and now all of a sudden they got completely away from that. And like you said, if I know ain't no threat of no run because you only ran the ball 4 times, I ain't even thinking about the run. You don't even have a running back in there for all I care. I'm coming to hunt you.
Yes.
So I respect what David Carr writes on NFL.com. But, David, the blueprint has been out there on Tom Brady for 13 years because the first time I saw this blueprint in action was the 2007 season Super Bowl in Phoenix. And Michael Strahan and company came after Tom Brady hellaciously with 4 men.
Right.
Just 4. OC and Tuck and who else?
Chris Canty.
Chris Canty. And it was hell to pay for Tom Brady all day, even though he finally pulled off what should have been a game-winning drive. They did go up 14-10 with 2 minutes to go. And then, as usual, Belichick's defense spit the bit. And here came Eli, 83 yards and 13 plays. And we know the rest of that story. But what happened on Sunday night was with 4 rushers, and it wasn't Cam Jordan because he registered he had one hit and it opened the game. And you could argue it was the hit because he hit Tom Brady literally right in the mouth. It was not called, but he just slapped him right upside the head. And it shook Tom up. And Tom threw a wobbly duck out to the right flat. And then here we went. And then all of a sudden, David Onyemata is just blowing up the interior of the pass blocking because Ali Marpet was out for the Bucs. And I think he is their best pass blocker at left guard. So he's out, and it's like losing Zach Martin for the Dallas Cowboys. And then here comes Trey Hendrickson off the edge, and they can't block him. And Tom is under fire, under siege, 56% of his snaps. What's going to happen? He's never been mobile. He's 43 years of age.
No.
What's going to happen? Bad things. And then finally, what if you're 6-2 and you have two guys who made the Pro Bowl last year, and you have the GOAT tight end and Rob Gronkowski, and on the fly you throw into the mix Antonio Brown after 2 practices, and you play him 39 snaps in the game. What do you think is going to happen if all of a sudden Tom Brady has about a second less to throw and a second less to process? Should I throw it there, or there, right? You have 4 great options. Chaos is going to result, and it did, and they scored 3 points. So I can't say, yeah, the blueprint has always been out there. This is how you do it. Now, again, to your point, to Orlando's point, whew, you better have Marshawn on Mike Evans, right? Because most teams don't have that.
Exactly. But, Skip, the thing that slows down a pass rush is being able to run the football. You got to make them think about something. Well, they got to hold in there because they might run the ball. If you just screaming upfield and I run a draw, now I'm getting 10, 15 yards. That'll slow your butt down. But for whatever reason, they decided in this game, we're just going to abandon the run, and we're just going to no.
Okay, well, what they abandoned was playing defense, right?
They abandoned that also.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but they're gonna have to find out like a medium way with, like, Bruce Arians is like he's stuck in his ways, and when you have the best quarterback to ever walk the planet, you're gonna have to sit down with him and find out the things that he likes, the things that make him comfortable. You brought him there to do a job, and now you want him to do the job the way you want it done. And it's clear every time Tom struggles, or we call it a struggle, or has a bad game, they just try and do too much. They try and just ask him to drop back and throw it all over the field like he's Patrick Mahomes. That's not what made Tom Tom. That's not what made him so surgical.
And that was the thing that I've been saying all along. Oh, are you going to turn the offense over to him like the Broncos did Peyton? They're like, oh, whatever, Skip, whatever offense they were running, Peyton, what are you running? And Peyton implemented the offense, and they ran Peyton's offense. That's why he looked like he did, even though he didn't have the same arm strength. That's why he looked like he did in Denver for 3 years, like he looked in Indy, because it was his offense. Well, you need to let Tom do what he's done for the last 19 years. Don't try. He's not going to push the ball down the field. You can't unwire that. Okay, Tom, just throw it up, let Mike Evans jump ball. That ain't how he works. Everything needs to be precision. If you go back and let Tom be Tom, which is screens, run the football, play action, hit Scotty Miller on the over, hit Gronk on the over, let Godwin on the end cut. And then when you get in the red zone, maybe throw the jump ball to Mike Evans. But Mike Evans losing patience. Mike Evans losing patience because them targets, they went from 12 with Jameis to 10 to 8 to 9. Now he getting 5 targets. Something's going to have to give.
They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. Tom won't settle or accept nothing less.
Correct.
All right. Orlando, thank you for your time. Always good to check in with you on Undisputed.
No mercy.
Well, thanks to the Steelers being the last of the undefeated teams, Mike Tomlin received the most votes from NFL.com to win Coach of the Year. The 8-0 start is also the best start of any season for the Steelers. So, Shannon, do you agree that Tomlin is Coach of the Year so far?
As of right now, yes, Skip. 8-0 this season, which that win on Sunday clinched 14 straight seasons in which he have a winning record. That's Marty Schottenheimer also started with that. But a very close second for me, Skip, Sean McDermott up in Buffalo.
Really?
I like the job that he's doing. He has them playing extremely well. So right now, Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott for me.
I love Mike Tomlin, but he does have that defense, and he does have his quarterback back. And by the way, they almost lost to Garrett Gilbert on Sunday at Jerry World.
They were looking past.
I like the team that is on Sean McDermott's tail right now. I like Brian Flores, the job that he has done. How do you pull off that? He's got the #1 scoring defense out of nowhere. And then the move to Tua, I thought, would be a disaster. And so far, so great.
But I know another guy, Skip, that they might be in play too. Cliff Kingsbury. He messed around and win the NFC West. He's 1 game back. Probably should have won on Sunday. he's going to get some play. But I like Mike Tomlin. Skip, I mean, look, I understand you got Ben, but Ben is coming off of major elbow surgery. And we thought they would be good. I don't think anybody thought they would be 8-0 at this time, and at this point, and especially being in front of Baltimore.
Yep. You know what? Mike Tomlin is so great to me. He's become an institution, and it's almost Belichickian, where you say, he's too good to win Coach of the Year. That always goes to the up-and-comer, Brian Flores.
What about Andy? Okay, Andy ain't going to be able to get no vote for Coach of the Year?
Who's Andy?
And you know Big Red.
Huh?
Oh, Big Red out there at KC.
Yeah? Well, he's got the greatest quarterback who ever played.
Hold on. Coach Belichick has won that award, and he had Tom Brady.
Didn't he just win it one time?
Yeah, that's one too many. You can't have to go. You tell me if you got to go, you shouldn't win Coach of the Year. But okay, I'll take Mike Tomlin because I think 8-0 is pretty impressive with that team.
Yeah, well, when you're undefeated right now, it's saying something about the team and their potential. We do want to thank all the veterans out there again and all the men and women who are serving our country today. We appreciate everything you do. We'll be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Happy Veterans Day. Have a good day, guys.